Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
And hello and welcome to episode 207 of On the Bench, the podcast for scale modelers by scale modelers, all about scale models. And this latest episode is being brought to you by Dennis Tennant, who has joined our Patreon supporter group. You too can help support the show just like Dennis. Simply go to www.patreon.com/onthebench and pledge any amount from as little as $2 per month. Your contributions help with the hosting and production costs and are greatly appreciated by us. Every financial supporter gets an OTB sticker and also goes into the wonderful and famous Patreon Wheel of Fortune to win some fantastic prizes and giveaways.
Are you looking for top quality paints for your next project? Then look no further than the Scale Modeler Supply, Australia's hobby paint. Hi, I'm Scott, and as a passionate modeler myself, I've spent years creating the SMS product range, designing them specifically with the scale modeler in mind. We have worked extensively to develop our acrylic lacquer paint range to not only be airbrush ready straight out of the bottle, but also to be easy to use so that anyone of any skill level can create professional results with minimal effort. Just give the bottle a good shake, pour into your airbrush, and spray at 15 psi. So dive into your next project with confidence, knowing that you're backed by one of the finest hobby paints on the market. Head over to our website at scalemodeler.com.au to check out our full range and to find your closest retailer.
And hello and welcome to the show. And in the studio I've got Ian.
G'day Dave, g'day Julian, g'day everyone else.
Of course, got Julian as well.
Yep, I'm here.
Gentlemen, how are we this very fine Saturday morning?
Oh, it's a lot cooler today, which is a bonus. Yeah, doing quite well, thanks.
Yeah, it is a lot cooler. Although it's warming up again during the week.
Yes.
Hate to tell you that.
Oh, well. That's why we have air conditioning.
You been building anything? Or buying anything?
Well, building, I've been plodding along on that Yamato still.
Yep.
So, but I can't do any painting until I've got a painting area set up in the garage.
Right.
Which I'm hoping to get done today, since I can actually get into the garage today and not melt within 2 seconds. Buying wise, I picked up when we left the studio last Saturday. I flew down to the Hobby Man and picked up my 48-hour build. So I picked up the Tamiya Sherman M1A1 with the cast hull.
I've got my kit to build for that as well.
Cool.
It's 70-second scale, but
That's still a kit to build in 48 hours.
yeah, and it's only a simple one, but it's simple, but because it's simple, it's complicated.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, this thing, I chose this because it's one colour.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's green.
Yeah.
Oh, plus you need some rubber for the tracks and a bit of steel and maybe a bit of wood colour.
Khaki
Khaki
green.
Khaki green. Well, it's olive drab, actually.
Right, because you're doing are we allowed to say what you're doing?
Well, I'm just doing a Normandy Sherman in Normandy.
Oh, they're doing Pacific.
No, couldn't find any figures Pacific War in 48 scale.
Right.
So I picked up a set of tank crew.
Yep.
Which I'll probably only use one or two of them, and chop them up so they fit in. And picked up a couple of. Surprised me, you can get free French. Or French resistance, I should say.
Oh.
So I picked up some French resistance figures. So I'll have a couple of them on the base.
But they wouldn't be.
I totally misinterpreted free French. I picked up some free French.
But they wouldn't be on Normandy Beach, would they?
Well, it's Normandy, France.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah.
Yep.
So picked up a few other bits like some stowage to chuck on the back of the Sherman. The Sherman kit doesn't come with a tow cable, so I picked up one of those. And a 48 scale fence to have like as a backdrop.
Cool.
So yeah, if I time everything the way I've got it in my head, I should have it all done in 48 hours.
What about you, Julian?
I haven't done that much. I'm sort of nailing down the sort of fringe parts of my Musaru build. Because I was sort of like, after like last episode, which was only last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about the whole torpedo thing. I think I'm not going to even put any torpedoes or dummy torpedoes or anything in there at all. And you know how it's sort of designed in such a way that when it's got those scalloped out areas for the
where the
torpedoes hook onto it, and they kind of prop it up when it's on a trailer.
Yep.
But because they won't be there, what I think I might do is I might just have it slumped over on its side on the trailer.
Oh, right.
Because it's still got, when you actually look at the trailer, there's like a center line support that supports the sub itself.
Yep.
And then it's got two sort of like concave shaped, like hard points that the torpedoes would sit on. And so those are the most prominent actual like sort of mounting points.
Yes.
And without any torpedoes there, the thing would just like fall on its side if you didn't have anything to sort of prop it up,
Exactly.
So, but it's the wrong trailer to begin with, so no one's going to like sort of do a proper job for it.
Yep.
And so that's why I'm just going to have it slumped on its side. I mean, it's still a submarine. It's still going to have like the majority of its weight at the bottom, so that it stays right side up when it's in water, right? Otherwise, it would just.
Well, that's right. Otherwise, you'd keel over.
Yeah, I mean, this is the classic. Is it the I-400, that Japanese submarine that was
the big one, the aircraft carrier one?
Yeah. And that was one of the problems they had. Is like if you have like too big a carrier, and if you got like the thing mounted up top, it wants to rotate and turn upside down, and they had to make sort of two separate hulls side by side kind of thing. That always stuck in my mind. I was like, oh yeah, well, I'm sure it's got like weight in the bottom, so it stays the right side up, and then in which case I can just have the whole thing sort of slumped over on its side, and it won't look weird or stupid or something.
Yeah. Have you decided what if you're going to paint it or have it like in natural metal?
Yeah, some kind of natural. I'm just going to sort of paint it in like various greys and things, like that kind of look.
Yep.
Very raw and not none of the sort of mottling type stuff that often goes on with some of these Seahunds that people do.
Yes.
And then I'll throw some. I'm thinking of like what to add as sort of periphery sort of added. Like I'm going to throw some like stock rod and things like that down on the side there, like building materials, scrap metal and stuff like that, sort of underneath the trailer, in the corner there, and maybe throw a bit of a. I think I'll put a bit of a small tarp kind of thing over it, not over the whole thing, just like a part of it.
Yeah, look, it's got like a glass dome, hasn't it?
The real sub does. Mm-hmm. This is a very old kit. So you know how there's two kits in the box. Mm-hmm. The other one gets clear parts. This one doesn't.
Oh, so
it just gives you a grey plastic dome.
Ah, that's interesting.
So it's not a very, I spoke to Chris Meddings about this when we first started it, and he's like, "Yeah, the Seahund is the worst of the two by a long shot."
So that's the one you chose.
But exactly. But it's the more interesting shape. The other one's just a cylinder, just a cylinder with a dome on the end.
Yeah.
Not much else. But yeah, so that's sort of my current plans. I think I've got some leftover 72nd scale, resin stuff that's like a barrel and some crates and things like that. That's sort of stuff that's stowage for like a 72nd scale vehicle that's not designed for any particular
stuff
kit.
that could just be sitting on the factory floor.
I could put that in the corner maybe if I can find it.
Yep.
We'll see how we go.
Yeah.
But that's how it's sort of shaping up so far.
Sounds good.
I'm looking forward to seeing the end result.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. It's so weird because I don't do dioramas. Right?
No, you don't.
And I've got a brick wall, and I've already painted the brick wall.
Yeah, you were talking about last night, weren't you?
Yeah. And I was thinking, wait, hang on a second. Am I supposed to put like a white wash over this wall so that it goes into in between all the bricks and looks like mortar?
Yes.
This is like something that's never occurred to me before because I've never built a wall before.
Well, being a factory, what if you just paint the wall? Have it painted?
Nah, it's a classic red brick factory,
Oh, right. Yep.
Very typical of the era. And they'll have those black sort of steel uprights sort of interspersed in different parts of the wall.
Yeah, give it a bit more structural
support.
support.
And it's got little electrical junction box thing on the wall.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds all right.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, same here.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, well, that's my update on
And,
this.
and how's your kinetic adventure going, Dave?
Yeah, look, I've made the decision not to be too precious about accuracies of the build. I just want to sort of move forward and sort of get it finished now. So I've started painting. I've put the green down, and I've just started putting the masks on. I'll finish that this weekend.
Well, you done the green before the grey.
Yeah. Because when you put the mask down, the masks cover the green, so the grey when you spray the grey. So anyway, so we'll see how that goes. The green's a little bit darker than perhaps what I wanted, so I'm going to have to go back in and perhaps just liven it up a little bit with some faded sort of green. I'll figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Picked up my kit for the 48-hour build.
Yep.
So I'm doing a 72nd scale because I'm time poor for that particular weekend. So it's just going to be a 1/72nd scale V2 manned what if German type thing. So,
Okay.
So it'll fit well with my sort of space collection. And I'll say it's only 72nd and simple, but the kit's simple, but it's hard because no locating pins. I think
Was it a special hobby, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, good.
So
Have fun.
so the fit quality is going to be questionable. So, but at that small scale, I've got the time to sort of do what I need to do to clean it up. So it should be cool.
You know what I don't miss about that sort of vintage model?
What's that?
Like fuselages where one's longer than the other.
Yes. Yes.
One side, yeah.
Yes. True.
It's just
you go on.
I'm just thinking about it now. Is just like, why did I ever think that was an acceptable thing?
Yeah. Because back then it was the only game around. Whereas nowadays we've got so many good manufacturers out there.
Yep.
You know,
bring out stuff you normally wouldn't even dream of.
Last night at Model Club, I was called a kit snob because I don't build crappy kits.
No, I think it's a good thing if you don't build.
Or don't want to.
Yeah,
I just sometimes still end up having to do them. But
I've got to do a huge retraction and mea culpa from our last episode.
Oh, really?
Because remember we were playing that game where we, what scales we don't want.
Yeah.
And we asked, well, do they do busts in 1/10 scale? Well,
They do, don't they?
oh, man, the messages I got about that.
And rightfully so.
Yeah. So the messages started with, clearly you don't build
Busts. Yeah,
busts.
exactly.
yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, clearly I don't. So, mea culpa to all of our.
Well, it wasn't just you. I mean, it's not like I picked up on it because I don't do
exactly
figures.
Right. I mean, there you go. So, mea culpa to all of our bust builders and figure painters out there. So, profuse apologies.
Fall on your sword.
Yeah. Now we got some huge news about our next episode.
Yes.
Some really huge, exciting news. We are going out into the field, and we're not going to a model show.
No.
Where are we going, Ian?
We're going to the Hobby Man.
We're going to the Hobby Man, which is our local hobby shop, and this is located in Narre Warren. So on Saturday, the 22nd of February, from when the store opens till about midday or so, we're going to be there doing our next episode. And if you want to come and join us, we're going to be at Units 4, 2 to 8, Victor Crescent, Narre Warren, Victoria, and that is the Hobby Man. So all of our listeners who are in Melbourne and in the southeastern parts of the suburbs, or even if you're the other side of town, just come over and
say good day.
Pop in and say good day. We're going to be having some.
They got a good collection of kits and paints.
They do. In fact, they got a great collection of paints there. They're sensational. If you're hunting for that odd paint, come over and have a look. We're going to be there, as I said, from when the shop opens from 9 till about 12, maybe 1 o'clock. We're going to be having some stickers. If you walk into the shop, we might throw you behind the microphone. So this is our sort of first. I mean, we've talked about how blessed we are in Melbourne for hobby stores, brick and mortar ones. And this is a great idea. And I think, Ian, you kicked off this idea where we'll actually go out to the shops. And then later in the year, we are going to go to perhaps the most iconic hobby shop in Australia.
Yeah.
which is Hearns Hobbies,
Hobbies.
in Little Flinders Street.
Yes, Flinders Street, yes.
Yep. The old one underneath downstairs in the basement there.
Yep.
So we're really excited about that. So we thought we'd just get out and...
it really is like one of those stores that sort of sticks in your mind, doesn't it?
Hearns Hobbies.
Yeah,
it's the one you all went to when you were a kid.
Yes,
when you went to the
yes,
city and your big days out with the city with your mates.
So that'll be later in the year, that one.
I mean, well, for our listeners who've never been to Melbourne, so like in Melbourne, there's the very iconic Flinders Street station.
Yes.
It's like the most iconic, like sort of, that's Melbourne
The
kind of
station
thing.
that should have been built in India.
Yes.
Is it really?
It's designed for India.
Yeah, the designs got mixed up. So the station they built in India was the design that should have gone in Melbourne.
But it wasn't designed as a Indian architecture. It's designed in the Queen Elizabeth... the Queen Victoria style of buildings, Victorian era.
Yeah. And, it's... So when you actually go to the hobby store, it's at the far end of the station, essentially. And then you have to step quite a lot down a flight of stairs from street level. It's as a kid, it really sticks in your mind because of that. It's like, wow, it's like an underground cave, you know?
Yes. But it's like Hearns Hobbies has been around, since Cocky was an egg.
Absolutely.
It does feel that way. Like you go down, you go down those steps, and then it's kits to the ceiling. The classic, wall-to-wall kits.
Well, really excited and can't wait to get out to this store in Narre Warren. So once again, that's 8 Victor Crescent, Narre Warren, Victoria, for the Hobby Man on Saturday the 22nd.
It's opposite Fountain Gate Shopping Centre.
Correct. And we'll be having some OTB stickers there to give away.
Yep.
And
the Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, all the whole thing. So it should be fun. Really looking forward to it.
Wheel of Fortune, really?
Well,
do you have an actual wheel?
Or I'll have my electronic one there.
Is the electronic Wheel of Fortune?
Yeah.
It's too difficult to write all those names on the thing.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. So if you come down to the store and you come over and say g'day to us before, let's say 11 o'clock, I'll actually put your name in the Wheel of Fortune for just a one-off thing, even if you're not a Patreon supporter. If you just come in and say g'day, I'll chuck your name in the wheel. How's that?
That's pretty...
chance to win something.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting any more than like a couple people to even be there.
People are coming and go, who are these guys?
Yeah. I mean, that's how I imagine it being in my head because, we're on the internet, like how many of these how many people live locally to us?
But kudos to the Hobby Man. They're one of these stores now that's really doing their best to reach out to all the clubs and
yes, they are.
Get everyone involved. Yep. And like they've got club displays happening now in their store.
Very community minded.
Their latest display. They've got a couple of display cabinets there for Pakenham scale modelers.
Yep.
So. And that's really how it really should be because I mean small niche hobbies like us, if you hook into the community aspect, I mean, you can only go up.
Exactly.
100%. 100%. So, 22nd of February.
Yes.
Be there or be square.
Exactly.
We'll
be there.
We'll be there, absolutely.
The good thing is it's walking distance from home.
You're not going to walk, though.
No. Well, no. If it was a nice day, I might consider it, actually.
All right. I hope it pours with rain.
Well, then I'll drive.
Someone follows you home.
Hey, what are we going to do for breakfast? Have to have Macca's for breakfast or something.
No.
You don't like Macca's breakfast?
Not really.
Oh, come on,
I'll just have breakfast before we go.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'll do that.
Couple of weirdos. How can you not like a Macca's breakfast?
Well, we have Macca's breakfast when we go on our road trips, Dave.
We do. And is that as far as you'll stretch?
That is as far as the only time I ever have Macca's.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm looking at Julian now, and you're...
No, I'm not. I'm not doing Macca's breakfast. There's not even a Macca's close to there.
Yes, there is.
Not really.
Well, kind of. Up to the right. On the main highway there.
Nah.
Yeah. Thought you're on your own, Dave.
Or we could look for a cafe.
Yeah, we'll be inside a hobby store, so I'm going to be saving my cash for, some potential hemorrhaging of my wallet.
The whole $10 that you'd spend on breakfast, you're going to save that for your...
Well, that's because I'll be... I may spend more than that, Who knows?
That's it.
It depends on... you go in there and you're like, I'll just buy some paint. And you're like, okay, well, 2 bottles of paint, that's not that cheap, really.
No, not nowadays.
It's like $20.
Yeah. Very true. Very, very true.
All right, let's have a quick break and maybe we'll come back and see what we're going to do next. I haven't figured it out yet.
I have.
Have you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay, we'll have a break. We'll come back. You can tell us what we're doing next.
All right.
Back soon. Okay, we're back and we're going to have a quick chat again just to remind everybody about the upcoming 48 in 48. We spoke about this on the last episode where we had James Giffins on the talk to us, tell us all about it. So it is coming up very soon. Ian, when's the actual kickoff date?
The 14th.
14th of?
Next month.
Next month, March.
Yes.
So this is, again, a great and sensational weekend. It's a dynamic and exclusive group build event that combines the joy of scale modelling with a mission to support mental health and well-being through creativity. It's an annual challenge which invites participants to build a 48 scale model kit within 48 hours, although, as we mentioned last episode, it doesn't have to be a 48 scale.
It started off.
Exactly right.
And I still stick with the theme.
So what to expect? It's a fully immersive experience. It's going to be live streams continually going for 48 hours.
Yep.
And community engagement where you can watch builders from around the world tackle their kits live on YouTube, share their progress, and cheer each other on. Special guests and partners. There's going to be the Industry Podcast, which is ourselves, the Plastic Posse, and the Geeks, as well as Just Making Conversation chaps. They're going to be on as well. Professional models are going to be there, and friends of Modelers for Heroes.
Oh, you forgot one.
What's that?
Callum from Micro Machines.
Oh, Callum from Micro Machines, yes. I hope you're going to give him a lot of shtick when he's on.
Why?
Well,
he's a good bloke.
I know.
I'm going to hang it on a good bloke. He's a decent fella.
I mean, you're a good bloke, but I hang shit on you all the time.
True.
So to participate, you build your own 48 scale or whatever kit, and you share your progress with the community. Donate. So there's a chance for you to actually donate to the fantastic cause Models for Heroes, which goes towards those who have served and all in the military and also first responders. And it's going to be a sensational. Also, I forgot to talk about the auctions. There's some amazing auctions which are going to be occurring. And you get to bid on the auctions as they come up. Each lot will only be open for bidding for 3 minutes, and the highest bid visible at the close of the auction will be considered the final bid that wins. And don't forget, On the Bench is actually putting up for auction the opportunity for you to
become a bencher for the day.
Become a bencher for the day, and actually you run the show. You decide what we're going to be talking about, and we have you on as a member of the On the Bench team.
Yes.
How's that?
That sounds like a great idea.
It does sound fantastic. I'm sure people are going to be really, really excited. Kicks off at 8 p.m. in your local area. So if you're in Australasia, Europe or the UK, US or Canada, whatever your 8 p.m. is, that's when it kicks off.
Yep.
And it runs for 48 hours until that.
Which is 8 o'clock Friday night.
Well, there you go. Yes. And through to 8 o'clock Sunday. Sensational event. To find out more, go to the numbers 48-48.org, and there's all the information there that you need.
Including merchandise.
Some fantastic merchandise. You can get a T-shirt, you can get a
apron,
a mug, a bucket hat, a sweatshirt, whatever you want. All good stuff there.
Yep.
And, of course, you can donate and donate now to the cause. And there's even some participants' albums from the last 48 in 48 from last year's. So it's amazing what people can produce in 48 hours.
Yeah, I know. It was very impressive work in there.
Absolutely. So follow along with Ian at the opening, which is, again, what was that date?
The 14th.
The 14th of March. 8 p.m.
Yep.
And Ian will be there with some great hosts from Australia who are going to be joining in.
New Zealand.
And New Zealand. Poor old Callum.
Nice. We'll look after him.
That address again, the number's 48-48.org. Go and check it out.
Yes, definitely.
All right. We've got a little bit of modelling news, apparently, Ian. What is your news that you have?
Well, one of our listeners, Tony Jacob, sent me a PM yesterday. Check this out. And I had a look and nearly wet my pants. Our good friend Jesse from DDA Collectibles is releasing 2 new kits very shortly. Something I was not expecting, but now that I've seen it, I've gone, oh yes, I'm going to get both. An XW and an XY Ford Falcon Utes.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Oh, yes.
Excellent.
So, yes, I'm on board with that.
Hang on, I have to Google this because I don't know anything about Fords.
Oh, yeah, this is so cool having the Utes. So many diorama potentials having a Ute. I noticed Edward's bringing out another dual boxing of the P40.
Yeah.
Pacific Stars, which is all Pacific Theatre paint schemes.
Cool.
Which looks pretty cool. And I think it was Special Hobbies also bringing out a 48 scale CAC boomerang.
Oh, very nice.
So I did see something about that.
So some interesting kits on the way.
What scale?
48.
Ah, wait, they already had one, didn't they?
No, that was...
No, I'm pretty sure they already had one. I'm pretty sure I had that kit. So either it's a rebox.
Yeah, it could be.
Or they...
So I've got a boomerang. I've got a boomerang and a Wirraway in the collection. I just can't remember what brand they were. They might have been Special Hobby. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be a rebox.
Yeah, it could be.
But that's fine. That's okay. I mean, I wouldn't recommend anyone buy it if it turns out to be a rebox. I didn't finish
it's
that
a challenge
for a reason.
kit. It's a challenge kit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a challenge in that it doesn't go together as it's supposed to.
Yep. And of course, we haven't forgotten. We're still going to chase up with Jesse, or Ian is from DDA, to find out about the overseas.
Yeah, so we'll check that out.
Where you can purchase it overseas.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to everybody about that.
Yes.
You guys got any other news at all in regards to some hobby model stuff? No. Let's roll in straight into
let's do some listener mail.
Listener mail. Now, I forgot last time we had a comment on YouTube. So it came from Gerald DeSalles.
Oh, yes, Gerald, yes.
And he writes, greetings from Norway's gents. Another great episode. I got my Royal Class P40 and looking forward to starting it soon. It is awesome. I also bought a P51C Overtrees with the plan to make it the Thunderbird 2 race plane.
Ooh, nice.
Currently building Academy's 72nd scale reboxing of Hajumi's CH53 to commemorate the fall of Saigon. 72nd scale can be good scale for helos of a certain size.
Yes.
Yeah, especially the big ones like the Chinook and the 53. Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Good on you, Gerald.
Yeah, and thanks for writing in and listening to us on YouTube as well.
When I was when I was a kid, I did a 72nd scale CH53, the Jolly Green Giant.
Yes,
yeah, and that had a big
footprint.
Oh
yeah, it does, yeah. Especially those blades, mate. That just spreads it right out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right, let's have a look at the next one. Alan Hughes writes in, hi guys, so I was starting to paint my daughter's room a very early Saturday morning and had one of those yes moments when I saw the latest episode On the Bench was available. Excuse me. And I thoroughly enjoyed it and some previous episodes over the day's painting. So getting to the model bit of the email, I had been working away on Meng's 35th scale Apache, and what a kit, since last August, and decided to take a break and have a bit of fun with Tamiya's 35th scale Willys Jeep over Christmas in January to convert it to a Jeep that would have been field modified during World War II to carry wounded soldiers to an aid station. Really enjoyed it and hope to put a medic figure from Alpine Miniatures with it as well. But it did wonders for the mojo, doing something different, as I'm not normally a World War II modeler, and it cleared the head for the Apache build as I'd hit a wall regarding how to fix a mistake I'd made, and subsequently was able to correct it and get moving again with it, as it's a fantastic kit. I have posted some updates to the On Your Bench Facebook page for both builds over the last few months, but my favourite part of the Duke build was making a sign from a coffee stirring stick and weathering it. Weathering is your friend.
It is.
Love the show. Keep up the great work. And here's to many more to come. It's from Alan in Dublin, Ireland.
Thank you, Alan.
And
Awesome.
I did see his pictures on... He did a great job with it, Duke.
Yeah, he did. Look fantastic.
I'll be keen to see how the Apache turns out. That should be really, really cool. Brian O'Donoghue writes in, "G'day, gents, again. Oh, Ian, I thought 1/24 scale armour...
No, although,
so I beg your pardon. God, read the words, Dave. Although 1/24 scale armour is not a popular scale, it is a thing.
Oh, there you go.
Kitform services were better known for truck conversions and accessories, but a few years ago, they branched out to a military range.
Yeah.
They expanded the range to include a number of armour kits. These included the 432, the Brit equivalent of the M113, the Saladin, the Saracen, Humber Pig, Saxon, which was a terrible vehicle apparently, and the Ferret. The soft-skin vehicles include a very nice SAS Pinky and others. Polishing rockets. Well, Dave, what can we say? Still got a vision of Dave stood in front of that sink polishing his rocket and telling Michelle it's not what you think. Thank you for another podcast. And he actually posts a link for kitformservices.com.
You'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
it rings a bell.
Does it?
Yeah, but I've never been to the website.
Okay.
I think I've heard it mentioned here and there.
Very good, very good. I'm going to have to go and actually have a look and just check out and see what they've got there.
Yep.
All right. Brendan Wrigley writes in, "G'day benchers, what a weekend. The Queensland 2025 NNL show marked its 20th anniversary in style, setting a new record with 46 entrants and 266 models on the tables.
Not bad, yeah.
Not bad, considering that our northern mates were battling floods and a long-time club members still recovering in hospital. So this is the model show that occurs at the Criterion Hotel. Friday night shenanigans. The weekend kicked off at Shuey's place, where the traditional swap meat barbecue and drinks got things rolling. Bargains were found, stories got taller, and the drink fridge took a serious hit. Plenty of kits changed hands. Now, let's be honest, most of them are now just future stash queens. The show itself was a ripper, and the quality of bills just keeps going up every year. Since NNL is entrant judged, the atmosphere stayed relaxed, with winners chosen by fellow modelers. Best of show and people's choice went to a motorised, fully lit up 1/32 scale Lancaster G for George, an absolute masterpiece. Other standouts include a stunning JPS livery E30 BMW and a spine-chilling Wolf Creek 2 diorama, just to name a couple.
Cool. Yeah, I think I saw some photos of that.
Yeah.
Really nice work.
Lunch, a few rum and cokes, and a steak sandwich, because what's better than the model show with a drink in hand?
True.
What's better than the model show at a pub? Charity fundraising. It was an epic raffle lineup with some fantastic sponsors, including a PS5 and TV as the grand prize. Whoa. We raised just under $1,900 for Variety's children's charity, a top effort all around. A massive thanks to everyone who entered, helped out, or just showed up to talk plastic and have a yarn. The countdown to NNL 2026 starts now. More pictures can be found on our Facebook page. Bench hard, says Brendan Wrigley, on behalf of the Rockhampton Scale Modelers Association. Well done, guys.
Yes.
It sounds like you had an awesome time.
Yep. Great bunch of guys, too.
Oh, yes. Because we caught up with them. Can you
scroll down? I want to see the photos.
Oh, sorry. Jeez, where have I gone? I've lost it now.
You got Dave all flustered.
Oh, no. Sorry, I've lost it. And Chris Miller, actually, from QMHE, actually made contact with me as well and mentioned that he was heading up there also with Dave, and they had a great time up there. They thoroughly enjoyed themselves.
Yep.
So
looks like we'll have to make the effort one year.
oh man, that's a long way to go, and it's a bad time of year to go for me because it's right in the middle of fire season.
Yeah,
so
true. We'll figure something out.
We will. We'll just live vicariously through everybody else.
That's it. I can do that.
Apparently, you could get rooms at the pub to stay.
Oh, jeez. It'd be like going back to another US convention centre.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Where are we to the next one? I think there we go. Now, trouble with the name pronunciation again. Help me out.
Uriah Cohn.
Now, remember last episode he wrote in saying that his storage area is in a bomb shelter, which we were very intrigued about.
Yes.
And he says, apparently since 1992, it's been mandatory in Israel to build new houses and buildings with an integrated bomb shelter, or shelters if it's a multi-story building. This means that as for my man cave, I took the opportunity to take a room in our new home for the hobby. And even if the house gets hit or whatever, my stash will stay safe because it's all down in the bomb shelter. Perfect.
That is a great setup too.
Well, I love his priorities.
Well, if
he prioritises his stash over himself and his family, so everything's down in the
I was
shelter.
checking out some of his kits in his collection. There's some nice stuff in that collection, I've got to say.
Now, I think it's... I remember looking somewhere. I think it's also... Switzerland is another one of those countries where... directly after World War II, or certainly into the Cold War, that all new houses had to have bomb shelters as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, a great idea. So you can use it for.
I think Malta might have a similar situation. I do recall seeing an episode of
Malta. You just use their extensive cave system.
Yeah. Yeah, basically that. Yeah, because it's all just the whole city's built on
was that city
limestone?
Or that city in that town in Turkey where they was it the 1950s or 40s or something? The guy was renovating his house and dug down, and they found that massive, like we're talking probably 50 square kilometre underground city complex.
Oh yeah.
Convert one of them.
Very, very cool.
Old city things. You know what happens if you dig down underneath Melbourne? Nothing.
It's hit basalt.
Yes.
Matt D writes in, "G'day guys, loving the show. Hopefully this hasn't been asked yet, but if you were to create a personal diorama that captures a significant memory from your life, what would it look like?
Ooh.
Think of it as a self-portrait or autobiographical. God dang.
Autobiographical.
Thank you.
The one.
This could be a moment related to scale modelling or something else entirely different.
That's an interesting one.
It should be something that if somebody were to see it and ask about it, you'd be excited to talk about it every time. But it can't be a dio of on the bench, live on set. That would be too easy. As an icebreaker, here's what mine would be. Back in my enlisted days when the sun went down... Oh, this is funny. Back in my enlisted days when the sun went down, a bunch of bored diggers, we'd make a game called Dirt or Milo. Only if we managed to pillage the HQ's coffee tent. This is played with night vision goggles or without. You get 2 tablespoons and they are held in front of the participant or victim with 1 spoon containing dirt and 1 spoon containing Milo. Both spoons are identical. Whoever was around would chant Milo dirt, Milo dirt, Milo dirt under their breath.
Mm-hmm.
And the participant would quickly pick the left or the right spoon and have their mouth filled with delicious chocolate-flavoured treat, or make mud using their mouth and the fine dust of the Kultana training area. So mine would be a gaggle of mates and myself sitting in darkness with NGVs playing Dirt or Milo. I'll probably paint it in green NVG colours or something a little bit more different. Might seem like a strange scenario, but it's one of those memories that gets brought up from time to time, and my mates are having a few beers together. I look forward to hear what you guys would come up with. That's from Matt.
God, that's such a difficult thing.
It is.
Really.
Actually, I'm doing a diorama with the Kultana training area. I've got a NASAMS that I'm building, which is a ground-to-air rocket system Australia. It's just purchased, and it's going to be in the colours of the Kiltarna sort of training area, so that sort of reddish sort of colour. So that should be cool. So diorama, what would you do as a diorama for your...
No idea. It's something I'd have to really think about.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been really thinking about it since we read it just now. Off the bat, the only thing that sort of comes into my mind is I remember when I was in high school, recess and lunch, we had our spot, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone's got their spot in the school grounds, and ours was this sort of corner that between like two blocks, because like the way the school was broken up into different blocks, there's A block, C block, and all the different to label different buildings so you can get around. And there was a bench, and this bench spanned the entire length of this small wall.
Yep.
And rather than sitting on it like a normal person, we would just stand on these things all the time. I don't know why we did it, because like, why do kids do what they do?
Why do they?
And the other wall was that one of those walls that was sort of like, I think it's a concrete wall, but its like face was made up of like stones that were sort of pressed into it. So it was quite rough to the touch. Like you wouldn't want to like brush up against it too. It's very abrasive, right? And someone at some point in our group and of like 20 guys decided it would be fun to throw his apple into the wall and it would just stick there, right? And this continued on and on until there was, quite a lot of various bits of food just embedded in this wall.
Oh, yeah.
You're a real delinquent when you're a juvenile,
no,
weren't you?
Like that's nothing really. Like there was a lot of boredom that went on, like you've got like an hour lunch break. That's such an extravagant thing, like as an adult now, right? An hour just to, and you would finish like, high schoolers, you would finish your food in like 3 minutes.
Yeah, well,
you just
right.
you just inhale it, and then you just got all this time just
stuffing
around.
I've got so many funny things from my service days, but
what, you can't mention them?
Well, some stories I can't tell on the podcast because we're got a G rating that we're trying to maintain.
Yep.
I don't know. I think if I was to do a diorama, and I'd never be able to pull it up, I'd do a diorama of myself at my bench because that's my happy place.
That's so vanilla.
That's what. There was about 10 seconds of dead air then.
Yeah, because it's so vanilla.
Yeah, but it it would. All right. Poo me. I thought it was a good idea.
I got another core memory. Yeah. So
for a diorama.
In the years following high school, when I was experimenting with alcohol.
Here we go. This is gonna be good.
Should be a
there was one house party where I ended up out the front of the house after throwing up on my friend's car, and he famously didn't wash that off. He was quite proud of the
dude,
what?
of like the sort of etching that went on with the paint. It was a terrible car, and I ended up sort of passed out on a dirt mound in front of this car, in front of like my friend's house. Because they'd been landscaping the front yard, and so there was this mound of dirt there, and of all places, I passed out there without a shirt on.
Oh,
yeah. On that note,
that car has a lot of memories, and for
clearly,
example,
yes,
yeah. So it was a VL Commodore, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh my god,
and it had the front was all sort of crunched in because when he would park this at his parents' house, he would let it roll into the garage until it hit the wall, and then he would turn it off.
Geez, you hang out some weird dudes, man.
And then another weird thing about it is that if you took your hands off the steering wheel, the radio would work, but if you put your hands back on the steering wheel, it would just turn to static. It also had like this little button on the dash. You know how you got like all those little sort of like square pop out things for buttons to go in, but often they were never filled with anything because you bought the base model. So one of those that had like a custom button I would put in there called auxiliary or whatever. and he said he would put the key in the ignition, turn it over until before he would actually start it, then pull the key out, press this button, and the car would start without the key in it. It was such a bizarre car. Oh yeah, and the doors didn't close properly.
What was it?
Like, so when
car?
you would,
What sort of car was it?
a VL Commodore in white, except it looked more like a cream color because it never got washed, you know. And that was before I threw up on it.
Oh no.
You know, actually, you know what? As a car modeler, I've often thought, like, because a lot of my friends had like peculiar cars, as you do in those sort of days, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often thought about like trying to replicate one of those.
Yeah.
The classic, you know, you're a 20-something, you know, P-plater, and you've just got like a bunch of junk in your car.
Oh look, I totally
You know?
agree. If DDA ever brings out a ZF Fairlane, I'll build my first car.
Like one of my friends had an RX-7, and I was actually tempted to build this car when I built the RX-7 recently, because the kit mirrors it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
First generation RX-7, and the thing about this car is that it never had enough battery in it to start it normally. So basically he would roll, because he lived on a hill, he would roll this car down the hill and roll start it. And then he'd be like, oh yes, both rotors are working today.
Oh my god!
You know,
Wow.
and like you should have seen, like the dash was cracked to all hell because old 80s era cars and Japanese cars in the Australian sun.
Yep.
Especially cars from the Japanese cars from the 70s and 60s. They were.
Well, this would be 70s, yeah. And where the speaker is, because you know how it was that era where the speaker in the dash was just a whole bunch of holes, you know, like drilled into the dash kind of thing. At least that's what it looked like. And all of that is sort of like cracked and broken, and a piece of it had fallen out, you know.
And you got that yellowy foam in behind it.
Yeah, the yellowy foam.
Which crumbles to dust and goes everywhere.
And the speaker will be crackly after a while and useless. And
and
only good for AM radio, that's about it.
Yes.
And like if you know these cars, there are 2+2. So they've got 2 seats in the back, but you're not actually supposed to sit in them, because like no human ever would be able to.
No.
Even a child would have to sit with their knees up near their chest, you know?
Yes.
And so there was like junk in there, like planks of wood and stuff, and that plank of wood got carried across to his other car at some point. And
What do you have a plank of wood in his car?
I don't know why it was in there. It was just a plank of wood. It was only about like,
hung up with some weirdos, man.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you know.
There you go.
All right, next email. Craig Everson writes in, Dear Dave, Ian and Julian, hope that you're doing well, enjoying what time you have at the bench.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you guys for the Patreon Wheel of Fortune prize from the other week. It was a surprise to see your email and fantastic to receive it. I have just listened to episode 206, and it was another great episode. I especially love the chat with James Skiffins, and like everybody, I'm excited for the 48 and 48 bash and feel very privileged to be asked again to help host this year's event. I have chosen my kit for it, and will either be a great thing or a disaster. Either way, at the end of the day, it's all about having fun and enjoying the company of friends and fellow modelers. Anyway, enough rambling. Keep up the great work, and can't wait for the next episode to come out. Kind regards, Craig Everson.
Cheers, mate. Looking forward to catching up with you on the 48-hour build.
Very good. Radio, let's roll into the next thing, which is going to be our Patreon Wheel of Fortune.
Dun, dun, dun.
Before we get there, though, don't forget, you can send an email to us. It's onthebench64@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. And don't forget to check in the show notes to find the link for our SpeakPipe, where you can leave a voice message.
Yes.
We love to hear what you've got to say.
Exactly.
All right, so the Patreon Wheel of Fortune's all loaded up.
What's the prize?
The prize is going to be one of our, again, exclusive...
We're not that exclusive now.
Oh, yes.
We're giving them away pretty quickly.
Exclusive challenge coins. And I'm going to pop in a couple of other things as well. So
Not so much exclusive as it is limited edition. Right?
Yes.
Well, limited edition, yes. Well,
Well,
there was
you're
only
not
a
going to
certain
make any
amount
more of
made.
them, are you?
No, there's only a certain amount made. So when they're gone, they're gone.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. How about we spin the wheel and we see who the lucky winner is going to be? And as the wheel spins around, all the names are loaded in, And it comes up with Thomas Campbell. You are our latest winner.
Ding, 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 ding.
So, Thomas, I'll be sending out an email to you. And
one thing the thing about these digital wheels is that they're not quite as random. It's sort of like faux random,
What do you mean?
Well, like computers can't really do true, proper dice roll randoms, and it tends to sort of go a bit odd, And I do wonder what would happen. What are you going to do if it lands on someone who's already won something?
I'll exclude them.
Okay.
Easy.
That's fair. That makes sense.
Well,
but it'd be too much trouble to exclude them prior.
Yeah. But you know what? It's like in going for a when you go to a show and you get the raffle. You can win, a couple times in a raffle.
Were you tempted to actually get one of those little raffle things?
I was, but I didn't know. That means you have to get balls and numbers and have to write numbers against the names and have to. I might still do it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you've got all the names, right? You can just print them out onto a single sheet of paper and then cut it all up.
Yeah. Or just have. I don't know. I have to think about it. This is the electric one's easier for me to do.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
100%
so much
easier.
quicker.
All right, how about we have a break? We'll be back very shortly. And now welcome to our next part of the show where we're interviewing a really great YouTube and builder is Phil Segal. G'day, Phil. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Really good. So, Phil, I came across you on your YouTube channel, which is called the Sprueverse. And it's a sensational show. And if people haven't watched it, I really recommend to go and check it out. What led you to sort of start doing your YouTube channel, Sprueverse? Let's start there, and then we can maybe wind back and talk about how you got into modelling many, 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 many years ago.
Yeah, well, I, by trade, was a television producer for 38 years, and I retired in 17, sold my company and retired. And one of the things that I've always been passionate about is my modeling. I started modeling as a young kid, 10 years of age, and you'd watch things on TV, and it's mostly fantasy and sci-fi, and you'd want those things, and they weren't available. So I would just go out in those days when I was raised in England. I came to the States when I was 10, but when I was a very young kid, my mother would take me to the local hardware store, and that's where they sold kits, mostly airfix planes.
Yeah.
I'd take whatever I could get, balsa wood, whatever, and I would just kit bash it all and try to make a spaceship out of it, because that's all ever I wanted. I wasn't interested in anything else. And, I dabbled for once in a while over the years, but never really had the time. And I collected a few sort of static sculpts and things over the years. But in 17, when I retired, I started watching YouTube channels quite regularly and fell in love with a bunch of various different channel builders, and they've become very close friends. And so my wife sort of encouraged me to think about recording stuff. And I said, well, what am I going to record? I don't really build that well, and I'm learning how to sort of get better at it. And she said, well, why don't you build all of those kits that you gave away over the years, and it's a great place to kind of start. And it's true. I'd build something and someone would say, oh, I like that. And I'd say, well, take it, just have it. So, I didn't have my collection and I didn't have my stash. So I started collecting, and I started building, and I started dabbling in recording and figuring out how to do it. And one thing led to another, and here we are. The show is constantly evolving, because it really is. It's not a how-to show. If somebody gets a tip or an idea from it, awesome. But it's really about encouraging people who are hobbyists or are wanting to get into the hobby. It's encouraging them to build something and to get out there. And I don't care what level you're at. I just encourage people to get involved in this awesome hobby.
I think that's what I found and really attracted me to your channel. The fact that it's not a how-to build channel. It's hi, I'm Phil. This is what I'm building, and sit and join me and build along if you want to as well. And it's also a warts and all show, and I get really it doesn't interest me watching the perfect build from start to finish where they do this magnificent sort of finished model at the end. I like seeing people build things and make mistakes and how they recover from those mistakes. And you're quite honest with some of the mistakes you make from time to time as well. And it's from that perspective that I think it's a lot more enjoyable to watch as both entertainment and as a builder than is to say watch like Plasmo or somebody of that level where they build this perfect model from start to finish. Well,
it's funny you should mention him. I mean, he's amazing.
Absolutely, yes.
Talented, young man from Czechoslovakia. I say young man, he's barely 30, I think. But yeah, I mean, just ridiculously skilled. I think that there's value in watching those things because, his shows do give you inspiration on definitely, jumping into certain things. Once in a while, he'll build a spaceship, and I love that about him. But I think that what I often get concerned about is I get a lot of subscribers who say to me, "Oh, if only I was as good as you," and I won't try this because I can't do it, and that's all nonsense. You've got to start somewhere, and I don't care what level of skill you're at. Part of the fun of this is spending some time at a bench, no matter how big or small your world is. And just having fun and getting your feet wet and just making a mistake because it's plastic and it's paint.
Exactly right.
and you can strip the paint off of it. You can putty it up. You can fix it for the most part. And so I'm a big believer in that. But there are some super talented guys out there. But I think they've lost touch in my opinion, they've lost touch with their audience. But people enjoy their builds, and I say good on them.
Well, I mean, those kinds of builds, those kind of videos are kind of like the showcase build, right? You watch it to see the highlights, the best moments of, so to speak, and it's very carefully curated to just the best points. It does give the impression that they are all about action. They never spend any time contemplating anything, and it's just action, and then out pops this beautiful model, no hesitation. But reality isn't like that,
No, and he can take up to a month and a half.
Yeah,
to film something, And I say good on you. I've had some builds. I just did an Enterprise D, a ridiculous Enterprise D.
That was fun to watch that one.
Wow. That was 15 weeks of my life, and that's just about the end. That's just about the end of where I am. I needed to move on at that point, but it was great to tackle it.
And you're quite prodigious in what you're putting out. At least once a week, you're putting some content out.
Yeah, I do try. I'm usually 2 or 3 weeks ahead of myself, although these days I'm not, because of personal situations and travel, and I have a son in Florida. I'm a grandfather now, so
welcome to the club.
Oh, thank you.
The best job in the world.
Yeah, it sure is. But so I get a lot of people making comments on what they're seeing, don't realize that I built it 3 weeks ago. But it's fun to get the content out every week. I just love it. As a former producer, I just like the pace of it. And if I've got something to do, if I don't have something to put out, I don't put it out. And I try to pace myself. I don't try to go crazy because I am running out of real estate.
Yeah, that happens quick.
Now, you grew up, well, you're born in England, and you spent the first 10 or so years of your life over there, which probably answers my question, because when I first started watching you and going, gee, that's a really strange accent. I can't quite pin down where you're from. And that figures out why, because you spent perhaps 10 years in the UK before moving to the US.
Yeah, it's all screwed up. My accent's all screwed up. But people ask me where I'm from. I usually tell them I'm from Georgia. It throws them off. But yeah, no, I when I go back home and visit friends and family, they think I sound like a Yank, and and you do kind of, your ear picks it up, and you start to sort of fall into that thing. So I've never really, I guess, been in one camp or the other. I sound like at 62, that's all you get.
Yeah. So you started building when you were a kid. Obviously, you would have cut your teeth on the Airfix models when you first started. Did you start off in a particular genre, or like was it armor or aircraft that sort of appealed to you when you first started building, or was it just whatever you get your hands on?
No, it was, well, it was really taking the kits to bash them into little spaceships or whatever I could do that was from a fantasy world. But I did like World War II, and I still do. I have a couple of choice pieces. I've got the Border Lancaster bomber that is an amazing kit. That
nice.
Was I guess it was originally supposed to be a Wingnuts
yes.
kit. But I have that, and one day I'll build that. But that's a behemoth build. And I've got a Wildcat and a couple of other things. Perhaps I think I might have a Spitfire or two. And I've got some vehicles. I've got Queen Elizabeth when she was driving the Katie. I have that as a little. And I've got a couple of old omnibuses, kind of cool kind of things that, because once in a while I'll drift over to a vehicle of some kind. But yeah, it was mostly, all you really saw were these very small scale aircraft when I was a kid. You didn't see anything else. If you wanted something else, you'd have to really buy it as a toy and break it down and paint it and do something else with it.
Well, back in, because we're the same age actually, so very similar. You're just maybe about a year ahead of me. Back then, there wasn't a lot. If you're into science fiction, there wasn't a lot to build back then in the 70s and the 60s. I think Airfix maybe put out a couple of sort of. I'm just trying to think of that strange look.
They did the Angel Interceptor.
The Angel Interceptor, I think it was. And that was sort of about it. I'd have to buy the little 76 scale spacemen, and I'd sort of chop and change them for my sort of space little things that I used to play when I was a kid, because there was nothing else around.
No, well, Aurora had some kits out on the market, but the problem is my local, like I said, my local toy shop did not carry plastic model kits in those days. It was a little shop called the Argosy, and it was. It was full of everything but plastic, model kits, and you'd have to go to London, and I didn't know that there were, when we went to London with my parents, that the last thing my father was ever going to do was take me to, to my hobby shop. That just wasn't in the cards. Yeah. So I didn't know about those things because I was a massive, still am, Irwin Allen nut, and. So, God, if I could have built the Jupiter 2 or the Spindrift when I was a kid, I would have been.
Yeah. You and me both. It was even worse in Australia because Aurora kits was just all you saw was Frog, Matchbox, and Airfix. It was pretty much all we got here back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So we were even in worse condition. I much like you, we grew up. Certainly, Ian and I. Julian's a little bit younger than the both of us, but we grew up with all of those fantastic sort of shows from the 60s and the 70s. You get all the Jerry Anderson sort of stuff, and then we got the stuff from America like Lost in Space and Star Trek,
Land of the Giants,
Land of the Giants. all those sort of, really iconic stuff that as a kid you couldn't wait to see the next episode. And if we had have had models back then, it would have been just so awesome.
Yes.
But totally unfortunately, we've had to wait until we're
adults
before we can sort of dive into our passion. But even stuff like Doctor Who, Doctor Who stuff, that was sensational. And thank God it's been rebooted. I've really enjoyed the more recent sort of Doctor Who's than the ones earlier on.
Yeah, I brought Doctor Who back in '96.
Oh, jeez.
There you go.
Thank God.
That's great.
Who's your favourite Doctor? I've got to ask you that.
I won't answer that question.
I'll give you my favourite two is David Tennant and Tim Smith. Smith?
Well, obviously I've seen all 760 of the original episodes that are available. And, I watched the pilot episode with my grandfather, so I'm a big lover of the early episodes. But I brought it back in '96 with Paul McGann, and I had Sylvester come and do a regeneration scene for me.
Oh, sensational! Yeah, I kind of do like Doctor Who just a little bit. I don't know whether you can see.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So I'd love to touch and talk a little bit about your professional career, because it's in some respects it's so entwined, I guess, with your hobby in a lot of respects and where you came from in regards to building models. For those who perhaps really don't know much about Phil, why don't you sort of just give us some cliff notes in regards to your career?
Well, I guess the short one is that I spent some time in the studio system. I worked for Columbia Pictures for a while. I went to ABC Television Network over there. I did shows like Twin Peaks was my show, and I did MacGyver 30-something, a lot of shows, and then I ran Steven Spielberg's television company for 6 years. I ran Amblin Television for 6 years, and I created a show called Sequest, and then I did Earth 2, and then on my own as an independent producer, things like Mission to Mars I did, but in the scripted, I produced a Gundam movie called G Savior. I brought Doctor Who back in '96, and I've written a bunch of television, directed a bunch of stuff like Beastmaster, Andromeda, Mutant X. I directed a whole bunch of those. I was head of production at Tribune for many years. But when I was doing Sequest, I gave a young kid by the name of John Eves his first job as an illustrator on the show, and he's world renowned now as an illustrator, and of course has created a lot of iconic Star Trek ships and is a great model builder himself. And so I it's great to have him as a good friend, and see how well he did.
So you've sort of been in the career, and this is quite interesting actually, because you're in during the era where it was true sort of studio models, and then you would have been there and seen the crossover into digital models. And I think, in fact, Sequest did that. Was sort of the first sort of.
That's right. Yeah, we were the first to actually create our in-house digital studio for it, and we were actually, most people don't know this, but we actually produced the first digital version of the Starship Enterprise.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
Jeez.
So we did that. We did that for Paramount, and it was an interesting time to see that the digital crossover. I mean, we were still filming, shooting on film, but digital editing was coming into its own, and it wasn't that much longer. 98, 99, when high definition digital cameras started showing up in production. But they were still worried about how they would perform, and of course, figuring out how to make digital cameras look like film cameras. They hadn't quite figured that out yet. All those worries have gone now. But yeah, it was an interesting time to be in the business because the crossover was huge, and we were using a few physical models on Sequest, and Stephen, of course, was still using them in his films. But yeah, it really depends on I guess, cost and your ability to sort of want to stay in that world. I know, Jim Cameron stayed in physical models for years. He fought it for a long time.
I mean, part of me sort of laments that studio models are not as popular or as they are. But then you look at productions like that are coming through now, where the digital stuff is better than having the old sort of studio stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of in half and half.
Well, I mean, look from the perspective of a viewer. Okay, as an audience member, the digital domain can take you into places and show you things that you could never see with physical models.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the time it takes to create them and cost. Having said that, coming out of the entertainment business and being a television producer for all those years, you do think about all the people who lost their jobs.
Yes.
They did not, they did not sort of migrate over to digital effects. It was a different world, and learning how to create digital models was just not something a lot of them did. So they lost their livelihoods, and there's a lot of them who are actually still creating and selling models today, Randy Cooper is one of them, a great model maker, and he sells produces resin kits, and incredibly talented. But I mean, it's it depends on your perspective, but you're right. It really has created the ability for us to go to places we would have never otherwise been able to go.
Yeah, exactly,
totally agree
right.
with that.
Exactly right.
Well, I mean, see, as a viewer, I think there is a different smell, so to speak, to the. I mean, how else can I describe it? But when you see like the stuff that's done with models, it has that different smell about it. Like these days, we're so oversaturated with CGI that it's sort of like, oh yeah, it's just another CGI scene,
Well, if you want to dissect it, and getting in the weeds on these things can be pretty, it can hurt you. But photoreal digital effects and composite photography, as well as physical effects, combined into one giant thing, can do some astonishing things. So often films, you get to the third act of a motion picture and you realize that they ran out of money because the effects look a lot cheesier, yes. and the scale is wrong, and the perspective is wrong, and that pulls you out of the film. But again, it depends on so many different factors. I mean, if you take a look at what Jim Cameron did, for instance, with The Abyss, all of those ships above the water, they were all models. There were no practical sets at all. They were all miniatures. And one of the largest ones was 41 feet long.
Yeah.
And so you get to that scale, and all of a sudden, the camera cannot tell. You're shooting on film. Camera can't tell whether it's real or not.
Well, you look at people who believe in sort of real sets and props and models. I mean, I just watched The Alien again the other day. Oh my God, that still scares the heck out of you and still stands up even today. And it's really 30 years old now? The movie?
Yeah.
Well, there's also like different eras of different technologies have like a different aesthetic that sort of sort of runs as a core inside them,
Yeah, you can always tell if it's the 1980s.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the old, like, rotoscoped, like, electricity kind of thing that, it would have had to be, like, sort of hand-drawn frame by frame or whatever. And that has, like, a nostalgic thing. Like, you're like, oh, it's, when you watch, like, Big Trouble in Little China or something, you're like, yeah, that's part of the aesthetic.
Yeah, well, you go back in time, and when George Lucas was pitching Star Wars, it was at Universal Studios until their production department basically said the film is unproducible. You can't do this.
Yeah.
What's in that script cannot be put on film. It's unproducible. And so these are the hills that everybody climbs, and you figure out how to composite. So it is the challenges and the difficulties that have sort of opened it all up. And as a hobby today, model making, wow, the opportunity. The genres and the tools that are available to us from 3D printers, resin, PLA, and all the various different tools and glues and putties,
the electronics and lighting effects we can use now.
Yeah. So it's an incredible time to be in the hobby.
Back in the 70s, there was no such thing as an LED. You'd have to have an incandescent bulb if you're trying to light a model ship or a spaceship up or something,
and hope to hell it doesn't melt.
Exactly.
When I was making Sequest in '92. All of our control surfaces in the submarine, it was all incandescence, and it got so hot you had to shut down. You had to shut down every 20 minutes. You couldn't film more than 20 minutes because you'd burn up all the gels on the control surface. The sets.
But that's what gets me about the actual modelers from that era, on the set modelers is the ideas they had to come through to get what someone had written on paper, to get onto the screen, and the different techniques that we used, it just blows my mind.
If you gave me a drawing or a concept of a spaceship and said, Dave, make this in a model, I wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah,
and I'd have no idea.
Not just that, but it's got to be filmed from this angle.
Yes.
In flight.
Yeah.
Would it be correct to say that a lot of the size of those studio models are determined by the fact that you've got to fit old light bulbs and things inside them?
Yes and no. Always. I don't think they ever stopped to worry about whether they could light something or not, because there were ways to light things. Even externally, if you wanted to, it really boiled down. It really boiled down to cost.
That makes sense. Yeah,
and time. So the more money you've got, and that doesn't necessarily always translate into a great product. So many times you had producers get conned by prop houses and model makers who wanted the money and wanted the gig, but were just overwhelmed by the amount of demand and couldn't do it. There's so many examples of that. But that's one of the great things about modeling today. The ability to light models, and I love lighting models. But all the models that I've lit that are on my shelves, once I built them and lit them once, they really never get turned on again.
Yeah, because when you start getting into like lighting models, I imagine that it's like, oh well, how am I going to change the battery? And then after that, you realize, oh wait, I'll never have to change the battery because I just don't use it.
Right. No, exactly. Or you just you plug it into a power source and not have it on batteries. But I just it's funny. I with a friend of mine, wonderful designer Jeff Fink. He and I collaborated on a build that I did for Wonderfest here in the States last year. It was a cutaway Dalek. So
I watched that. Yeah, that was sensational.
Thanks. Yeah, and I actually was honored by Fine Scale Model magazine, showcased it in the magazine, and it did very well in competition. But figuring out how to light that 10 years ago, it would have been a challenge. But now you've got all of these wonderful cob lights, LEDs, noodle lights. You've got so many things, and microchip SMDs now, ridiculously tiny little SMD chips with magnet wire, or very fine wires that can go to places that you couldn't get. And even then, now we've got things like Faraday tape, that can conduct electricity, and it's flat, so you can get power to anywhere now.
I've always been intrigued, and I've made it a. In fact, I bought a Star Trek spaceship. I can't think of it, what it was.
Kazon or something.
The Kazon or something. Yeah, I bought it at a swap meet with the view to this is going to be my test kit for actually lighting a model kit. Not. Electricity to me is like that dark magic. You can't see, taste, smell, or touch it, but you can sure as heck feel it.
You can touch it and you can feel it.
Yeah. And it's always I've always found it to be a bit intimidating. How have you found your approach to lighting and using electronics in your kits? Have you sort of started from a real base level and just learnt as you've gone, or?
Well, it's that kind of thing where nowadays you can buy lighting kits, right? It just all comes pre-done to some degree.
Yeah, I guess it's
there's something called plug and play now. There's a lot of guys selling, things that you just basically hot glue them into your ship, but or your model. It was a real challenge for me in the beginning, because the basic concept was way over my head. So the first time I put a bunch of LEDs in a ship, none of them had resistors on them. So you can imagine what happened when I plugged it in.
Pop.
And, I really started from the basement and worked my way up. But I'm pretty comfortable with most things now, but you go to another level, and all of a sudden you've got to be aware of amperage and load, and these strip lights don't like to go below 12 volts. So if you've got different systems, and step downs and all the things, if you want to really sort of up your game, that's where you got to go. And then beyond that, you've got guys who can program their own Arduinos, although AI will do that for you now. I mean, you can literally get an AI to program an Arduino board for you, and it will.
Wow.
And it's you don't even have to worry about that anymore. But yeah, and there's some great companies out there. There's Evan Design here in the States, who are just, what they've done for the modeling industry is incredible. There's a great guy called Ralph Tenaglia. He has a company called Tenor Controls, and you can buy his boards, and he's an amazing guy, and he's super talented. And then there's an old effects guy by the name of Randy Newbert, who has a company called Voodoo Effects, and he puts out kits as well. So there's so many places that you can go as a modeler to get help with lighting, and they're very, they're good people. They'll help you out. They'll walk you through something if you're not sure.
And of course, there's also the community to reach out to. The community will help you as well.
Wonderful. Yeah. No, there's some incredible groups out there, and so much fun. And on my Sunday chats, actually, I've got a couple of guys from your neck of the woods who are friends and part of our group, who are wonderfully talented builders. So it really, that's the great thing about social media. It's brought us all together, Yeah. And that's awesome, because everybody's so, I would say everybody, but 99.9% of the people that I come across are incredibly friendly and helpful. They'll help you. they'll tell you how they did something. They'll share with you a resource. It's an awesome community.
Yeah.
Agree. Also, Lego has been a big driver behind like the casualization of lighting.
True.
Yes.
Yeah. With their very simple sort of plug and play sort of brick lights, or what are they called?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lego's that's a whole nother world.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yes.
Let's move on to your wonderful show, Sprueverse, and your mostly your models, and there are some exceptions in there. And I'm generalising you and putting you in a pigeonhole now, Phil. So if you want to break out of that, let me know. But by and large, you tend to do models that from TV shows or from movies with the sort of horror / more sci-fi sort of bent to it.
Yeah, no, it's all fantasy and sci-fi. Those are my genres. That's my passion. And once in a while, I'll drift away. I'll do a sculpt. I just did a tribute bust to Boris Karloff.
Oh, cool.
But and I've got a few, vehicles in my stash that I need to get to that are really nothing more than concept cars. But I guess, look, it's really, it's sort of one part nostalgia, one part passion, and one part, wanting to feed creativity, and all of those things together just, they really are what drives me. But what I do on a weekly basis, I never really know. I think about it once in a while, and sometimes it's really difficult, for me to think about it. And I don't know, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then sometimes I'm really excited about getting to something that I think I can do in a few weeks, and turns out you can't. You gotta spend more time on it, and that's a good thing.
But you've also been a little bit shy, not sort of talking about some of the stuff that you donate to other people as well, though, from your show.
Well, that started a few years ago. One of my subscribers, I didn't know who he was, and it started with him emailing me and telling me that he wanted to, he could no longer, he thought he would be able to build a model or two in retirement, and he contracted, Parkinson's with complications and couldn't build anymore. And so he wanted to give me his prize model, which was the Horton. I think it's the experimental plane. Was it 235? I can't remember.
The German one. Yeah,
229.
Yeah.
And he had an incredibly. It was a very expensive kit of it, and he had all the aftermarket stuff. He had wood paneling. He had decals. He had photo etch. He had books and research. He had all this stuff, and he wanted to give it to me. And I just, I said, that's very kind of you, but I won't accept it. I said, if you send it to me, I will build it for you and bring it back to you, because he was in California. So that's how it started, and he did, and I built it for him on the channel, and my wife and I actually drove it to him and spent a lovely afternoon with him and his wife, and it turned out he was one of the most amazing men I'd ever met. He was actually an astronaut.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
He was part of military intelligence, and he was supposed to be on the shuttle, a top secret shuttle mission that was supposed to go up after Challenger.
Wow.
And of course, didn't go. And so just an incredible human being. And so that's where it kind of started. And then I started getting emails from people who, said, would I build this or would I build that? And it's difficult because sometimes what they're asking me to build, is complicated. Like a 1-350 enterprise refit, is not something, you throw together in a weekend.
Yeah, we know it.
And so, I have to be careful what I commit to. And it's also, it really depends on, this. I guess I gravitate towards the story really and who the person is. And, and so I thought to myself, how can I get other people thinking about community and charity? And so that's where my Buy Me a Cup of Coffee comes from. The link's on my channel page. And it's really, I want people to think about it, even if they don't contribute to my cause, that they think about it and find time to do things, charitably if they can, because it's a wonderful source of relaxation when you're hobbying, but it's also wonderful to be able to give.
We've got a very big event coming up in March, which is called 48 in 48, which Ian's going to be part of, and we've been supporting that for the last
4 years.
4 years now, where all the proceeds go to the charity Model for Heroes, which are for members of Defence Force and first responders. And the Models for Heroes sends out kits to these people to help them, integrate back into normal life,
and get them thinking about something else.
Yeah, other than any sort of traumas or anything like that they might have been exposed to in the past. And it's great to be able to contribute back into the hobby. And we've always been doing this podcast. It's about supporting the hobby and supporting those who do it, supporting the shows, supporting the hobby stores, supporting the builders, and it's just good to give back.
Yeah, it is. That's the beauty of it, and social media has made it the ability for people to connect in real time is terrific. That to me is that to me is just part of it. Getting people, because I have people send me emails, or text on my Instagram account. I post most days on my Instagram account at Sprueverse, and they'll make a comment like, "Oh, I don't have any time to do it," and I go, "Well, okay, are you working?" "Yeah, I work." "Okay, well, do you work weekends?" "No." "Well, okay, do you have any models?" Yeah, I have models." "Okay, well, listen, I don't care if you take 25 minutes, take it down off the shelf, take it out of the box and start cleaning the parts. I don't care. Yep. 25 minutes dedicated to something that gives you pleasure.
And guaranteed that 25 minutes is going to turn into a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But, I think a big part of it is some people, not everybody, but, if you're a beginner, I think sometimes the shows can be a little overwhelming, and people go, "Well, I can't do that," or I don't have those tools, and I get it, but I just want people to know that I don't care what level you're at and how good you are. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that if you've chosen to be involved in the hobby, that you feel welcome and you get something out of it.
Absolutely. And it's amazing how many people have written into our show. Excuse me. We've always been big advocates of model shows, and we're sort of always promoting people to go out. If they've never been before, just go. And
to get involved with clubs.
Exactly.
The community aspect.
The amount of people who have written into us and said, based on what you guys said, I went to my first show ever and I had an absolute wonderful time. It's, it's really rewarding and warming to see that.
Yep.
Yeah, shows are fantastic. I've been going to Telford in the UK the last couple of years, and that's been fun. And we do something here called Wonderfest every year, that's in Louisville, Kentucky, and I've been really that's an amazing show. We get 4,000 or 5,000 people showing up to that, and that's wonderful community. And this year, my friend and I we're making a pilgrimage to Japan. I'm very excited about that.
Oh, sensational! Cool. We've been threatening as a podcast to go to Japan, and it's not that far for us either. So we need to sort of really cement that in.
We're trying to get. I'm trying to get as much information as I can on the Shizuoka hobby show that Tamiya sponsors every year, because that's the one to go to apparently.
Yeah, I've been to that.
Have you?
Yeah, it's very good. Mm-hmm.
So tell me, maybe you can help me. Even though the days that it's open to the public, it's general admission is free. Do you still have to register?
No. You just, if you're a foreigner, you just turn up, and you just go straight in.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
There's no requirement to register.
No, you just they'll have like a sort of like booth thing there that for where they admit people. And yeah, if you're a foreigner, you're different, because they don't expect you to have the same sort of foresight and knowledge of, because they kind of spring it last moment in a way. Like they don't really announce the date until, I don't know, like a month out.
Well, they've announced it now.
I think they're wisening up a bit, because
they've announced it 17th, and I think it's the 17th and 18th of May. So it better be, because we bought air tickets.
The day to go is the one where they've got all the display stuff. So I think it's like one of the later days, or the last day of the show. Where
it's the 18th.
Yeah, because they got like the industry sort of days, and then they got like the day when like all the clubs and schools and other interest groups have all their stuff on display, and that's really, really amazing. They're not constrained by the same ideas that we tend to be in the West, because ours is quite, especially in the United States and Australia, UK, it's quite competition driven, so it funnels people's thoughts into different, armor, aircraft, cars and stuff. Over there, it's just sort of like free play, and people will come out with all kinds of weird stuff.
Oh, I love it. I'm very excited. Yeah, I mean, that was one of my big beefs with, IPMS for years, is, this sort of, kind of this stuffy, you're not welcome kind of feeling if you weren't in a certain, if you didn't build aircraft, you weren't welcome,
Yeah.
And so they've cottoned onto that, and they've definitely done an excellent job making people feel a lot more welcome over the last couple of years, and so that's terrific.
Well, I'm over in the States again next year. I've got a very good mate who lives in Louisville, Kentucky. Kentucky Dave, as I call him, David Knight, who also has a podcast as himself, along with his friend Mike. And I've stayed with him a couple of times, once in the past, and the plan is to head over there next year and stay with him and go to Nationals. But now I'm also talking about doing Wonderfest as well, because I think Wonderfest might tick my boxes a little bit better than what Nationals does in regards to the stuff I'm interested in building now. I'm more of a science fiction and real space guy at this point in my building life than I am anything else.
Yeah, well, Telford in the UK is a huge event. And the size of Telford, I mean, it's like, I think at least 5-10 times bigger than Wonderfest. But Wonderfest's the Wonderfest model room, where you can just, you can put your models in for competition and display them, was 20 times bigger than Telford's.
Yeah.
We get almost 2,000 entries every year at Wonderfest, and from all genres, in the fantasy and sci-fi world, it's just incredible to see the amount of talent. But I just love the fact that people, you've got to break the ice and bring something and show it.
Yeah,
and it's quite fun to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Your Sprueverse YouTube channel is fantastic. I can see your by watching it, you can see you've been in the industry, because you push a button, you got all these preset angles for cameras, which it works so well, I've got to say.
Well, there's a reason for that. There's a story behind it.
Oh, okay.
When my wife, my wife's in the business. She's a movie producer, but she's also an editor. For when I said I was going to start my channel, she said that she would edit my shows for me. And I said, "Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you." For typical me, I went and got, I had like 4 or 5 cameras. I set them up, but I set them up on SIM cards, so you're recording and you could be rolling for 5 hours, 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
Typical me. So 4 hours times 5 cameras.
That's a lot of work.
And you do that every day for you, and all of a sudden, you go, yeah, no. She goes, yeah, no, it's not happening. And I go, well, I don't know how to edit. Well, that's too bad. Get your son to do it or whatever. And so my son, who lives in Florida, he was helping me for a while, but he's a police officer and he does nights, and he's a new dad. He didn't have time to do it. So I was on my own. So I had to learn how to, kicking and screaming, I learned how to edit. But then I have a friend in the business, who stopped by to see me one day, and he looked at what I was doing, and he was in the post-production side of things. And he goes to me, "Well, why aren't you shooting live to tape?" And I said, "That makes all the sense in the world. I can do that." I said, "But what do I do for a switcher?" And he said, "Well, the cost of a switcher these days, I mean, there's a company called Black Magic that puts out something called the MT Mini Pro that can do everything. It can do your sound, it can do your picture, it can do effects, it can do all kinds of things." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well," he said, "Yeah, I've got a friend who will, come over and leave you stuff to play with." And I said, "Okay." So he did. He came up and he plugged all these cables in. I had cables running all over the floor and up in the ceiling. And I go, "How do you do this?" And he goes, "Well, you do this, 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 and this." And all of a sudden, I realized this is the way to go. So yeah, I cut live to tape. I have 8 cameras rolling.
Rode does a similar system, because a lot of our equipment is Rode, and they've got a similar thing as well, which has just been released. They do fantastic stuff for podcasters and also for YouTubers now. And you got like a hot pad, and you can have about 4 cameras, I think, off their system. And you just hit the button, and there's an automatic sort of switch. So you're just all doing it to the one tape. It's awesome.
Yeah. So it just it freed everybody up, and it freed me up too, because once I learned how to cut my own shows, I could be on my own schedule and put out my own content when I wanted to. But
there's something about doing that makes your show slightly different and more appealing, because you can say, "I've got a thing. Oh, hang on, let me just show you." And you flick your button and bang, the camera's sort of there and it's showing it as you still without sort of without taking breath. You've got the next angle that you're showing the person that you of the piece that you're trying to talk about. It's just really interesting.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I try to keep it. I try to keep it interesting. Although I'm working real hard on my bloviation. Because I could run off my mouth for hours and just
No, surely that's not true.
Early on, I had guys complaining, like, "Oh my God, why don't you do less talking and more model building?" Fair enough. And I go, "Well, go find another show."
That's right.
They were clearly spending the time to watch.
Yeah.
But no, and then, and I got to a point where when I watch my shows back as I'm cutting, I go, "Yeah, that's boring. Yeah, that doesn't help. That's no good." But I try to get it as immersive as I possibly can, because I think that one of the fun aspects of at least my show is that we're all learning together. So when I show what I'm doing, it's not, unless I really know what I'm doing, which is rarely the case. I'll say, look, this is how you do it. This is how I've learned to do it. There are other ways to do it, but this is the way I've learned to do it, and it works. And so I think oftentimes when you do that, folk like to really get in the weeds on it.
You mentioned that you're retired now and have been for a few years. I've got to ask you the question. Do you sort of wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh, I've got an idea for a fantastic show? And then you realise, oh, no, I can't. I'm retired now.
No, I don't. I have a couple of ideas for movie screenplays that I want to write because, that way I can give them to my wife and she can say, yeah, that's a lot of crap, and I can move on with that. But no, I don't miss 18-hour days and the stress of trying to get things made and funded and all the politics and the problems with networks and distribution no, I had a company that I ran for 15 years, and I went into reality TV, and that was thinking it would be a lot easier. It was actually a lot harder.
It'd be a lot harder. Yeah.
Oh wow! I would have thought it'd been a lot easier.
No.
It's reality TV. You're dealing with real people.
Yeah, exactly. With the shows I made, still actually some of them are still on the air. I made shows like Deadliest Catch and Ice Road Truckers, Storage Wars. Those were all my shows, and but it was never easier. No, and I had too many sleepless nights worrying about how to make payroll and all the other problems. Oh, you're getting sued and all this nonsense.
Oh, wow.
So the answer to your question is no. I don't I don't miss it at all.
And there's too many wonderful models to build nowadays anyway.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I get up every morning and I come down to my shop, and this is my happy place.
Phil, it's been wonderful having you on the show. If people want to check you out, where can they go and find out more information about both you and also your wonderful YouTube channel?
Well, you can Google me, Philip Segal. Philip David Segal is how I was credited, but you can Google me. There's no secret. There's a lot of stuff out there, most of it true,
and hopefully good, good as well.
But my YouTube channel is Sprueverse. That's Sprueverse, Sprueverse, and on YouTube. And you can get a hold of me. I'm Sprueverse@gmail.com. And I post most days in the weeds of what's on the bench. I'm at Sprueverse on Instagram, occasionally on TikTok. I just had a TikTok that of my Enterprise D firing up that got over 200,000 views.
Wow.
So that was
cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so cool.
Well, we thoroughly recommend that you go and check out the wonderful YouTube channel, Sprueverse, because it's very entertaining. And if you're into building stuff from science fiction TV show, you're going to love this channel. It'll be right up your alley.
Totally agree.
Phil, thanks very much, mate. And
you're welcome. When you come by, don't forget subscribe. Don't just click through.
Yes.
Of course. Yes, don't forget.
Totally agree.
We'll be putting a link in our show notes to your channel as well, Phil, so no worries about that.
You.
All right, cheers, mate. Thanks very much.
All right, look after yourself. Bye.
Well, that was great catching up with Phil.
What a great guy.
Oh, he's got a fantastic show, so I'd really recommend you go and check out his YouTube channel, especially if you're into your TV and movie science fiction stuff. It'll be right up your alley. It'll be really good.
Yes. And with credentials like his.
Yes. It's so interesting hearing about that.
Yeah. I mean, Sequest TSV.
Yeah.
I mean, not that was like...
Earth 2 was...
I loved Earth 2.
Yeah, I liked Earth 2. I mean,
it's a shame
that
they cut
was
it.
like some of the start of like that whole golden age of like sort of 90s, 2000s era
gritty sci-fi.
Gritty
sci-fi, yeah.
Absolutely.
I watched, there were so many of those shows. They just, I don't know, it was just sort of an era where they were just churning out one after another, you know.
And he brought back Doctor Who.
I know. Jeez.
That's really incredible.
I know. I had to sort of tamp down my my fangirl sort of vibes in.
You were waiting for the squeal.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of the show.
Yes.
So, as I said, our next show is going to be on the 22nd of February, and we're actually going to be live at the
Hobby Man
in Narre Warren. Yeah. So again, please, if you're in the area, drop in and say good day. We'd love to talk to you face to face, get you behind the microphone even, or just come up and pick up a OTB sticker.
Yeah,
it'd be really
while
cool
you're
to
there,
see
buy
you.
some kits.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Support the store.
Yeah,
because they support you.
They certainly do. All right, until then, gentlemen,
have a great weekend. Have a great long weekend. Have a great weekend. See you in 2 weeks' time.
Julian.
Yeah, see ya.
Of course. All right, guys, thanks very much. We'll be back in a fortnight. Really hope you enjoyed the show. And don't forget, there's a whole host of other wonderful podcasts for you to listen to. Simply go to modelpodcast.com and it's got an aggregate listing of all the shows there. Don't forget, when you're listening to the show, don't forget to subscribe to them. It just helps lift the aggregate for all of them. And we also recommend you go and watch Workbench Hobbies with our good mate Clayton, and also Black Hat Scale Models with our good friend Stuart's. Looking forward to seeing you at the Hobby Man at Narre Warren if you're in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne. That is on Saturday the 22nd of February at 8 Victor Crescent, Narre Warren. Looking forward to seeing you there. My name's Dave. Thanks for listening to the show. We'll be back in a fortnight.